She was a groundbreaking actress across the board. On and on and on. She made sure that whether it was Bewitched or not, that she was going to make her mark, and she did.
Good evening. I'm very happy to be your hostess on the exciting Hollywood Palace, and to have the opportunity to thank all of you for watching Bewitched.
It takes a special kind of talent to make people feel comfortable about you, to be welcomed into their home.
I'm going to kill Johnny Scarpa. What do I know about him? Well, I know he carries a gun. So I would be a fool to take the time to kill 2 people before I shot him. I'd whack him first.
Well, in the reenactment photo, he does get whacked first.
But the fact that Scarfa had the time to get off 3 shots clearly supports my theory that Orlando was the intended victim. Is that logical, or am I crazy?
And she had that special thing, with Samantha. She was a groundbreaking actress across the board. And then after Bewitched, when she became the first queen of TV movies, on and on and on, she made sure that whether it was Bewitched or not, that she was going to make her mark, and she did.
Yeah, yeah. But like, even having done all those pre-Bewitched, in terms of, I would assume, was she a household name, even though she was working a ton?
Not a household name, no.
But like a successfully working actor.
She was a successful working actress, known within the industry to deliver the goods. She made, a couple feature films. The Johnny Cool I mentioned. She, the court martial of Billy Mitchell. Guess Who's Sleeping in My Bed with Carol Burnett and Dean Martin. Carol Burnett became a very dear friend. But, it's different acting in the movies as opposed to TV. It takes a very special kind of talent, at least then, before everything became melded like it is today. It takes a special kind of talent to have people make you, or to make people feel comfortable about you, to be welcomed into their home. And she had that special thing, with Samantha.
That's really true, because you can be a really talented actor or actress and really nail a role and get accolades, and it could do well, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like the people who saw you in that film want to see you every week or, and doing anything, and they can appreciate it. But you're right, there is that special thing that says, I want to choose, and especially in an era where it's like there wasn't TV everywhere on the phone. People had to go sit down, make a choice. I'm going to watch this person on the screen each week. So you really have to have a likability and, and be talented, obviously. Let's talk a little bit about, I was fascinated by some of the stuff, and it was towards the end of the book, you talked about, you had circled back with some of the friends that she had along the way, and how she was this like lovely person, but there was still a little bit, I don't know if there was just, she was quick to move on, or she built up walls a little bit, but it seemed like there was a lot of friends of hers who were like, yeah, we were so close for so long. And then suddenly I was kind of on the outs. I love her. She loved me, but I haven't talked to her in 20 years. Like those kinds of things. Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit? Yeah,
she was very, very, very sensitive. Very, very, very private. That's why it was such a big deal when she said yes to me, and she trusted me. She even said, sitting down with you was like very therapeutic, because she felt that people didn't care about Bewitched. And this is right before, Nick at Night and TV Land was hitting big with nostalgia. So she had really moved on. So she's like, why would anybody be interested in Bewitched? I had left it behind. So I had convinced her that people still loved her in that role. But she was protected. And if you hurt her, there were no second chances with Elizabeth, and that's how sensitive she was, Actually, when she called my house one day, and this is when I was living back with my parents, which was part of the reason why I wrote the book, because I went back home to care for them, where I could still be connected to Hollywood, back home to Rochester. So she called, the house one night, and to ask to speak with me, and my mother answered. My mother freaked out. Elizabeth Montgomery.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so I said, she's Elizabeth. My mom kind of said, well, I'm a person. I'm a person. So she embraced regular life, and she liked to be embraced that way, and she didn't want to feel threatened herself. by others. So she's very, very protective.
Yeah. And she, I mean, she grew up obviously child of a star and with money and went to good schools and had a good, I mean, a bi-coastal, setup and really, probably didn't want for anything. How do you think that influenced, I don't know, her acting and her choices and, who she was as an artist?
Well, certainly Bewitched. I mean, they did several episodes that attacked snobs and the arrogant. Andorra herself, is very, very arrogant. Wasn't evil, but she was arrogant. Serena became arrogant, Samantha's lookalike cousin. But a lot of the time, Samantha loved to really, stick it to the arrogant mortals, rich arrogant mortals. There was one episode, Snobs in the Grass, where Darren is dealing with clients who are part of this elite club. And David White's Larry Tate, of course, wants Darren to join the club. And Samantha's like, what for? What do you need to do that? I'm very happy just, So she would go and she'd meet with the wives of these gentlemen who belonged to this club. And they were all very arrogant. And so Samantha and Andorra end up getting all this information about each of these people in the club that dated back, a couple generations where they grew up poor. And Samantha and Andorra just reveled in exposing these frauds who were just really regular people just like the rest of them and had no reason to be arrogant. So, yes, and with episodes like that, she addressed, I think, what she knew firsthand about private clubs and, the goofiness of such establishments. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about her relationship. She was married 4 times. Would you say, did she think her last one was the best? How did she,
Well, the way I look at it, her first husband was a sweetheart. His name is escaping me for some reason.
Gammon, right?
Fred Gammon. He was a casting director producer who worked with Robert Montgomery on Robert Montgomery Presents. And Robert Montgomery loved him because he came from big New York money and whatnot. And they were just both so young, and had they met later, that marriage would have probably lasted. But Elizabeth wanted to be a star and he wanted to have a wife. So the way I explain it is, the marriage went south and she went west, to California to be this actress person. And then Gig Young, he was a nut job. He had alcoholic, he would beat her. She enjoyed a drink every once in a while, as did everybody of that era. But with him, it got out of control and she finally found the strength to leave him. But her father never liked that marriage from the beginning because Gig Young was like 20 years, her senior. And that was like crazy to Robert Montgomery because that was how old he was. So he was quite pleased when that marriage ended. And then Bill Asher, they met on a set of Johnny Cool. He had hired her, but she was late for first day of shooting and it did not go well. It was like they started arguing. They kind of like not liked each other. And then they fell in love. And then many times, as with Sonny and Cher, Carol Burnett and her husband, Joe Hamilton, Lucy and Desi, many times, not all the time, but many times when a man and a woman get married in the industry and they work together, what they're working on when that particular project ends, so does the marriage. And that happened with each of the couples that I mentioned, and it happened with Elizabeth. The show Bewitched was not the same. It was not the same show that it started out to be in the 7th and 8th season. And then Bill Asher, his eyes strayed. God knows why. He's married to Elizabeth Montgomery, and he's looking elsewhere. And that really hurt her. And then she began an affair with Richard Michaels, who was another director on the show, and Bill Asher's protege, and he was really pissed off when that happened. But no matter what was going on in their marriage, they still made sure that their children were raised to respect both parents. They didn't turn one parent against the other, but it was tough. And then when she met Robert Foxworth, one of the things that fascinated her about him is that he never watched Bewitched, you know? And she was like, wow, you know?
Yeah,
and at that point, she was done with Bewitched, and she definitely wanted to move on. So it was really attractive to her that he never saw the show. And then his first name was Robert, like her father, and she liked that.
Yeah.
But, you know, when Robert Foxworth first saw her, they met on a TV movie called Mrs. Sundance. And the first day of the set, or first day of shooting, as Bob Foxworth had said once, she bounced on the set, you know, and he's like, who's this? And they just fell in love. But she did not marry him. And he had asked her for years and years and years. And finally, unfortunately, in like a year, just a short time before she died, she finally walked into the kitchen one day and said, let's get married. And he was like, what?
Yeah, okay.
So I would say, in retrospect, Bill Asher and Robert Foxworth were the two true loves. True loves in her life.
Do you know if at that point when she said, okay, let's get married, had she had her cancer diagnosis yet?
You know what? That was never confirmed, but now that you say that, and I had thought about that too, I think she probably kind of did know. I mean, because she was sick, and she got sick, and she was hurting for a very long time before, you know, Robert Foxworth and her kids are like, Mom, you gotta see a doctor. So I'm thinking, yeah, she might have known and feeling something was up, and that she would, you know, marry. Certainly there were issues with legal issues with Sony about how with the animated image on mugs and stuff of Samantha that she was not pleased with. She had sued them, and she finally she won that lawsuit shortly before she died, and she did well with it. I think she did that for her kids, even though, I mean, she had $1 bazillion as it was, or at least a lot. So she wasn't hurting for money, but it was interesting how she won that lawsuit shortly before she died.
I think you mentioned that, and also that she didn't want for her kids even just to have to deal with, you know, like, let's wrap this up so my kids, there is this issue with copyright and everything. So, but I don't want to burden them with a lawsuit that doesn't really involve them. Right. So yeah, I'm sure she was pleased to be able to kind of wrap that up. Especially if she knew she was potentially getting sicker and sicker.
Am I talking too much here, Tim?
No, this is great. I don't. It's so funny. I sometimes people will, you know, I'll look at the comments and then they'll be like, "Let the guest talk more. Shut up." And then other people are like, "Why don't you ask more questions? Stop taking." So who knows? You talk as much as you talk. I'm just trying to be here to, you know, just to have a conversation. So this is great. And honestly, we have you on here because you have the information we want, not me.